again to the Iron City Roundhouse Report, the podcast where the love for the high iron meets the precision of the scale model. Whether you're tracking the latest Class 1 freight movements or perfecting the scenery on your home layout, we're here to celebrate the history and hobby of railroading. Climb aboard and settle in as we clear the signals for another journey through the world of trains. Hello once again, and welcome to another episode of the Iron City Roundhouse Report. It's great to have all you with us again. We so much enjoy bringing this to you guys, and I just wanted to say a quick thank you for joining us for Season 2, Episode 12, The Price is Right. And I think we have fairly interesting topic here for you guys tonight. Pat, we're going to be talking to Iron City members Clem Harris and Freddie Mack about some various topics of how to maybe be a little bit frugal with your hobby money and try to stretch your hobby money to take, to get the maximum advantage out of it. So I'm very much looking forward to what these guys have to talk to us about. How are you feeling?
Hey, Brad. Yeah. Hey, everybody. How's it going out there? Brad, it's always a mystery to me sometimes when we're on these auctions together, because I know you and I always call each other and say, hey, there's an auction tonight, or hey, did you see this? About what is a good price for something. You know what I mean? Like, okay, am I overspending here? Am I paying the right amount for things? Am I getting a deal that I don't even realize, a diamond in a rough? So the guys tonight kind of help us, how to look for those things. So some websites, some tricks on eBay about how to look at history of purchasing of items and things. So I really think that's going to help a lot of people out. And, with the economy and the way things are going and the prices, it wouldn't be we wouldn't be good stewards if we didn't have information to pass on to folks about what they might be able to do in the hobby to maybe, instead of buying 3 coal cars, you get to buy 7. So,
that's right.
Because you always need another hopper, right?
Well, heck yeah. If 3 coal cars is good, 7 coal cars is great, right?
Right.
That reminds me, I forgot to tell you, I found another loco. I know. I found you talking about the auctions, and I think that's where I got this. And I put down on it that I paid like $55 for it. It's Atlas Cotto GP30 for the CB&Q, which we like to patch.
Nice. Yeah, we love to patch this.
Yeah. So that's, and I don't remember which of the auctioneers I got it from. It was a while ago that I picked this up. But yeah, that's, and Freddie and Clem are both real good at finding different markets and different avenues to obtain stuff for as reasonable a price as you can. So I think it will be very good information for our listeners, and hope you guys are looking forward to this as much as we are. But before we get to that, we have our Iron City Roundhouse Report segment to do. So Pat, you want to lead us off with that?
Sure. Hey, tonight I have our first one here is Greg Wagle. He is doing a beautiful mine. Looks like the old New River mine kit. But, man, he's done some great weathering. He said that he was influenced by Michael Barnes because Mike had posted about working on a building. So he thought, hey, I better get into this, start doing something. And he's done a couple of dull coats, and then he did some looks, on that mine. It's got that tin or that metal look to it. And, man, he's done a great job. He's done some great weathering.
Because I recall some really nice looking rust streaks on it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Some weathering on the doors, looking really good. And of course, me being me, I sent him a picture of mine with the windows open and stuff. And he really liked that too. But it's great to see. I don't remember Greg posting that much. So it was really nice to see someone new posting and doing some great work.
I recall Mike and I met him, I think, for the first time. I think it was for me the first time. But he came to the Clinton Central Iron City East show at the fire hall that we do there in Woodward Township up here.
Oh, awesome!
Jersey Shore and Williamsport. And I believe he hooked up with Mike. I know he's on Mike's page too, his Nick Ball Eagle N Scale page. But yeah, we got to talk to him at that, and I think Mike maybe knew him before I did, but I have to say, Pat, you got to be a little bit, I don't know, just a little worried about someone that lists Mike Barnes as an influence, don't you think? Yeah, I'm just kidding. Mike is a great modeler, and I'm sure we'll be seeing more of his pictures of his N scale empire he's building. He might close down the brick and mortar part of his store. He still has his stuff online available, but he's going to have a really nice layout in that building that he had his shop in. But to get back to Greg's post, I agree with you. He did a really, really nice job on that mine. And thanks for sharing that, Greg, and keep your stuff coming. We always enjoy seeing people's progress as they start to build their end scale empire. So thanks to Greg, and hats off to him.
Absolutely. Okay, Brad, what do you have tonight? What's your first one?
I have the first one I want to share is from a good buddy, Ryan Lamb, who is from the eastern part. He's even further east than I am. He lives in hometown, PA, which is right on the Reading and Northern, and he also works for the Reading and Northern. But he posted a pretty neat post for several reasons. He was in Middletown, PA, and there's a tourist railroad there called the Middletown and Hummelstown Railroad. And here they're doing they were doing the ride. It says ride the rails for cancer. It says all proceeds go to helping families with cancer patients pay their bills. And there's also a yearly craft show next door, plenty to do for everyone. So thank you to Ryan for sharing that. And that they have, I had heard of that line, that tourist railroad before, but I've never been that familiar with it. But he shared that they have an Alco S6 locomotive painted in Western Maryland livery that they apparently pull their excursion trains with. And so it's a neat ride to take a neat opportunity to take a train ride, but also a chance to help these families who have patients, dealing with cancer, which is never a fun thing for them to deal with. So thank you to Ryan Lamb for sharing that with us. And it looks like an interesting place to go take a train ride, which I'm always looking for.
That's
I
right.
don't get
Yeah.
I don't get to do very much rail fanning.
Yeah, right.
I just, for those listening to this, I was just up in Scranton today, looking at two big boys, Todd Treaster and Nick Wummer and Neil Moness. And Nick's father were all up there hanging out and checking out the things up in Steamtown. But yeah, really appreciate Ryan sharing this for a good cause. And it looks like a pretty cool train ride, Alco switch engine. So thank you,
Excellent.
Ryan. Yeah.
Okay, Brad, my second one tonight is from Eric Young. He's a rising contributor on our page. And Brad, just our last episode talking about 3D printing and everything, about painting. So Eric shared some pictures with us of, it looks like a 3D printed dump truck and some figures he was painting. And the painting on this is excellent. He's got the chrome on the wheels, and
Uh-huh.
the trim. The mirrors are done with the chrome. It painted in white, and the dump bed's got some weathering and everything on it. And then I don't know how he did these these figures. They're so tiny. He's even got the hard hat done correctly. He's got the pants and the orange vest on the guy and everything. Just great
Yeah.
work. And I think Eric was just following up with our podcast. We love when people, Brad, follow up with the podcast and show some of their work or some of the topics that we were talking about, and they follow up
Yep.
with posts on the Facebook page. It really puts those two things together and allows
Yep.
people to kind of see, okay, this is what they talked about. Now this is someone that's actually doing that, So
Right. Yeah. And
great work from
that
Eric.
was, yeah, that was one of the things right from the very beginning that we hoped would happen is we get that crossover or whatever you want to call it, the complementary nature of the podcast that we're doing now and the Facebook page. And it's been really cool to see how those two things, they both go together and complement one another. It started off that we depended on our members on the Facebook page, for our audience on the podcast. And that has happened. But we've also seen now that this podcast has helped grow the membership of the page. I think we're within 18 members of 3,000, Pat. the last I checked.
Yeah,
So
it's getting very, very close. I double checked the other
yeah,
day. I thought we hit it, but Facebook
yeah,
says we're over 3, but I know they round off, so we're still a
yeah. If
little
you
way to
you
go
have to
yet.
you have to click the members tab to get the actual number because it does
Right.
say 3.0K members, but I think we're actually 2980. So yeah, it does round
Yeah,
off. But mhm,
2,982. Can you believe that, Brad?
yeah, I cannot, Pat. It seems. I can remember it like it was yesterday when it was basically pretty much just the two of us. And then we,
Yeah,
fortunate enough to find the really good core group very early
yeah,
on who helped us grow this. But yeah, it's been pretty spectacular to see all the new friends we've gotten as a
absolutely.
result of the page and the podcast, which when you boil everything right down, that's why we do what we do in the hobby is to share it with good friends, which we consider all of our members and all of our podcast listeners to be good friends and part of the Iron City family. So yeah, it's been a fun ride these last. What is this now? I don't think we haven't hit 6 years yet. I don't think with the Iron City
No,
Facebook page.
no, we're going on year 6 right now. So we
That's
just had
what
our
I
fifth
thought.
year. Yeah.
Yeah, 2021. So, and then of course the podcast, we just last month reached 1 year. So this is all still pretty new, but we once again will echo how much we appreciate everybody's participation, just like what you mentioned with Eric there, sharing that, which dovetailed right with the topic of our podcast not that long ago. So thank you to everybody who does that, and that's really motivating for us to keep doing this, just
Yeah.
because that's our reason for doing it is to bring people together, and we hope we can continue that for a long time.
Okay, Brad, you have one more to share with us this evening.
Yeah. One more, our historian, good friend, another one of those original guys we were just talking about, Richard Shirey, shared a video that was made by another one of our good friends, DJ from DJ's Train. Richard shared a link to DJ's fantastic video on the East Broad Top, which, of course, that's always one of our favorite tourist lines. Everything these days seems to be about the big boy, but let's not forget about the East Broad Top. Those guys have done a remarkable job of rehabilitating that, bringing that railroad basically back from the grave pretty much. And so, yeah, we want to shout out to DJ for an outstanding video. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, like I said, there's a link to it that Richard kindly provided. And so thanks to Richard for sharing the link, and thanks to DJ for producing what is a cool video of really one of the coolest tourist operations going right now east of the Miss. I mean, it's the only operating narrow gauge railroad, I believe, operating east of the Mississippi right now. And just, it really is a national treasure. I know that's the name of a movie, but it is, that when they closed that up in the 1950s, everything you go to see there, the shop buildings, the locomotives, everything is just like it was back in I think it was 1956 when they closed it down as a operating railroad. So thanks to Richard for sharing that, and again thanks to DJ for making a fine video. One of his videos are always great to watch. So that was my number, the second one for the Roundhouse Report segment, Pat.
Okay, excellent. Okay, Brad, with that, we'll be right back after this with episode 12, The Price is Right. I think you guys are going to enjoy this one this evening. Hey, welcome back, everybody. We're on episode 12, The Price is Right. We got a good podcast for you this evening. We're trying to help our new members or members that have been in for a while kind of navigate this market. We're calling everything from eBay to websites to your brick and mortar. What's the best deals? What are the best prices? And try to navigate through all this. And I'm going to pass it over to Brad, and he's going to introduce everybody, Steve.
Yeah, thank you, Pat. I'm looking forward to this one tonight. We have two special guests with us. First of all, we have Freddie Mac, a longtime Iron City guy. and he is a longtime collector. He's helped me, and I get out of a couple jams where I was looking for stuff that came from overseas once even, and he's good at finding things and good at sourcing stuff and getting good prices too. I've also bought stuff from him, and he's also helped me spend my money a couple times when I wasn't even expecting to. I get these messages from Freddie that have pictures of PRR steam locomotives or whatever, and then of course I end up buying it. So he's also a member of the Baltimore area N-Track or Band Track Club. We've seen them at several of the shows that we've been at. I know they have a pretty cool not mock up, but a pretty cool model of Horseshoe Curve on their layout. I remember seeing that a couple times at the Altoona N Scale show. And I also remember, I think Freddie was at the Bethlehem N Scale Enthusiast Convention. I believe they had their layout there too. So, Freddie, it's great to have you here. Welcome. And I'm glad you're here with us today.
Great to be here with both of you.
Likewise. And also joining us this evening, we have from Albuquerque, New Mexico, a little pretty far out west, but a longtime Iron City member. We have Clem Harris, who also is known to search the internet for deals and is also pretty well known as a very good custom DCC installer. He has some custom DCC installs that he's done for himself that stuff that I've never seen before. I can remember one locomotive in particular that had like a glow from the flame simulated in the firebox and some other real cool stuff. So, Clem, we're really excited to have you here with us tonight. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys.
Thank you for being here. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, having said that, let's turn it back over to Pat, and Pat will get things going here with the questions and the back and forth we're going to have with you guys. Pat, take it away.
Okay. Hey, tonight we're going to talk a little bit about maybe getting started in the hobby or some things we're doing when we're purchasing, things to get us ready for the hobby. We're going to talk a little bit about maybe some rolling stock prices and things to look for and places to go. And then if we can with you guys, I know everyone's in different phases with layouts and everything and DCC and DC. But we might talk, if we get that far tonight, talk about how to budget that, what's worth the investment in our opinions. These are just opinions, but this is hopefully like the headline for the show is the price is right. So we're trying to help everybody out with these prices nowadays, trying to figure out, what is market value, what's above market value in a couple of different areas that might help everybody maybe get that extra boxcar or maybe that extra locomotive that they can afford now. So I'm going to start off with Freddie. Freddie, tell us a little bit about your modeling history, a little motto bio about yourself, and what got you kind of linked into helping other people with searching for items and pricing items.
Yeah, so about me, currently the vice president, Baltimore area N-Track, and I've been on Facebook. Me and Clem have a Facebook sales group just for N Scale. It's called N Scale Trains Buy /sell /trade. Been an N Scale enthusiast member for years, and you can see my stuff on YouTube. Just type the N Scale Runner, or if you're on Instagram, one word, the N Scale Runner. I just post videos so they don't take up space in my cell phone. But I've done N Scale most of my life, but I'm not doing N Scale. I'm doing HO, classic Markland, European stuff from 1950s to the early 90s. But I've always just had an interest of going out and finding things that people have a tough time looking for. I think of that there's a random quote where it's from not from the $6 million man, but based off of it, where it's we can rebuild it, we have the technology, but I don't want to spend that much money. And that's the slogan of my railroad lifestyle. So whenever there's something out there that I really, kind of have an interest on, or if somebody asks me, hey, I've been looking for this for years, I kind of look at it as a challenge, and I start going through pages and pages of websites just to help that person find what they're looking for.
Clem, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit of hobby bio?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been a career railroader coming up on actually 30 years now. And one of the things that's always interested me is not only the sights and sounds, but like some of the lighting stuff. And Brad had mentioned like firebox flicker on like a steam engine. So I've always kind of sort of been curious about, as the technology has started advancing and DCC has really started to blossom, how I can really start trying to implement that with my models to be able to get just a little bit more out of them. I've gotten into over the years doing my own custom paint work, my own custom DCC installs, and just the driving question I've always had is like, how much further can I push myself? I've always had this curiosity, like, okay, I did this project this time. Let me see on the next project, how much farther can I go? I mostly model a lot of today. I have a bend for pre-Amtrak passenger trains and anything kind of steam related is of interest to me. I've been at it now real hot and heavy for about the last 10 or 15 years. I belong to my local NTRAC club, which is the New Mexico Rail Runners. And then I'm also have jumped in the last year and a half or 2 years or so with the Fremo N bunch. And my son and I's first exposure to that group was the Evanston event back in 2024. And then we'll be participating again coming up this summer in Elk City. So we're kind of dabbling in a couple of different ponds, but we're we're just having fun and trying to be big kids.
That's what it's all about for sure.
Yes.
I will say too that there's kind of a connection between three of us on here. I currently have a PRR H8 consolidative locomotive that has a decoder installed in it. And at one time it was in Clem's hands, and I'm pretty sure Clem did the install. Then it ended up in Freddie's hands, and Freddie, as I mentioned, is always willing to help me spend my money. So I ended up buying that, and runs great. And that was my first experience with a decoder that Clem had installed. And if you've never installed a decoder in a brass locomotive, it's not one of the easier installs. And this one that Fred did just runs fantastic. But that kind of all goes along with the idea of the secondhand market. And because I mean these brass Pensy locomotives that I love so much have not been around for decades. I think it was in the 90s that they come out, and the only place you can get them is in the secondhand market. And both of these guys are deeply involved in the secondhand market, finding deals that you just don't find anywhere else, and finding good, what I consider to be pretty good prices. Because if you've looked at N scale brass, it is generally not cheap. So, that's just one reason why it's great to have these guys here. They got a lot of experience in this part of the hobby.
Yeah, Brad, I always worry, and I've kind of gotten over it after a while. Like, okay, I'm spending a lot of money here, and what do I have to show for it? But then you realize, hey, people all do different things. Some people buy boats, some people go skiing, some people buy season tickets to sporting events. Everyone has their own thing that they work hard for their money. Might as well do something with it, right? And
Yep.
hobbying and model railroading is okay. It's not bad, but there's ways
Well,
I think that we can help each other spend our money wisely.
yeah.
And
Thing is
so,
too,
go ahead.
it's a lifelong activity that you can
That's
do
right.
to keep your mind active, at least, which, there's lots of studies that show. And I mean, I can give you anecdotal evidence of it too, where people who had some type of hobby to keep their mind and body occupied, into what they call the golden years, which aren't always so golden.
Right.
It just seems like there's a connection between, and insurance companies will cut you breaks on health insurance and everything else when they realize that you are actively involved in something. Even though model railroading is not a physical hobby,
Right.
The NMRA has this thing where you can get your membership, the cost of your membership discounted from whatever health insurance you have. I forget, Gordy Robinson started it, but yeah, I mean, so I don't think anybody should feel, as long as you're not holding your family hostage, nobody should feel guilty about spending money on a hobby. There are lots worse things in the world
Yeah.
today that you can spend a lot of money on, aren't they? That are
Yeah.
damaging to the mind and body rather than enhancing it. So yeah.
What do you say, Brad? Beans for a week. We need a big boy. So.
Yeah, that's it.
So let me throw a question to Freddie as we start tonight. Freddie, what are some of the biggest mistakes new model railroaders make that cost them money? What's something you think, in your opinion, model railroaders do that cost them money? I know what some are for me. So
I think some mistakes that people make are probably buying direct from manufacturer websites. I mean, I can take, for example, Bachman. Bachman will have a price on their website, which is their MSRP, and they sell mostly to distributors and dealers in this hobby, but they also sell online. But what I find surprising is the dealers actually get, a lower rate to buy the stock for them to sell. And it's a lot less than what a manufacturer is selling on the website. I think the current goal is to have people buy from dealers and vendors, and that way they can buy more stock from the manufacturers. So I usually recommend people when they're starting out, though we may recommend a Kato starter set or a Bachman starter set, don't necessarily go to that specific website. Start doing your research. You can go on multiple websites. You can visit a brick and mortar store. You can see what's on the secondhand market. And that's how I encourage people to take a look, because when they see those prices on those websites, they kind of go, yeesh, I don't know if this hobby's right for me. But in reality, you shouldn't be paying too much of that price. You should be going out and finding what's best for you, and taking that extra step of, instead of, going to the manufacturer website, seeing what they have, seeing what you like, and then, writing down part numbers, writing down product numbers, and then going out into the internet, your brick and mortar store, a trade show, wherever, and using that to find the best deal.
okay, Clem, same question. What do you think cost new modelers the most?
So I think one of the biggest human traits is that people as a whole tend to be kind of addictive, and they jump in, and when they jump in, they want to just as many different things as they can do when they get into a new hobby. And so with model railroading, what you a lot of times see is people will jump in and go, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And they wind up with a whole ton of stuff. And then they wind up kind of losing interest because they have too many things. And so if on the other end of it, if you are one of those people that's given to like wanting to jump in and like go full hog towards something, take that half step back and actually start with something small, start with something simple, and get a good feel and a good read, one, for what your enjoyment level is, and for the various things that you're going to want to do, and get comfortable in the hobby before you start trying to expand and just buy one of everything.
Okay.
Yeah, that's both great pieces of advice there.
Yeah.
And Pat, if I could, I just go back to the point I was trying to make before you get to the next question.
Yeah, no problem.
That thing that I was talking about that the NMRA started,
yes,
they partner with a company called Grouper, which is a health benefit platform. So if you are 65 or older and have a qualifying Medicare Advantage or supplemental plan, you may be able to get reimbursed for your yearly NMRA membership dues. You can check your eligibility at the Grouper NMRA portal. So I was having trouble coming up with that, so I wanted to get that in there. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, that's good. I'm glad we got that. And Brad,
Especially since we're not all that far off from that 65
no.
threshold.
Brad, some things I was thinking about when those guys were talking is when I first started, didn't do research. I didn't have my era right. I was buying, man, if it looked great, I was buying it. And then, but I had the wherewithal. Some people like to collect, right? But I was like, hey, I'm going to sell this back. I don't need it. I'm going to put it out there on the market, or I'm going to trade and get things that are going to match what I finally decided to 70s and 80s, what was still around. Now, and it's everybody, and we always say your layout's your layout, right? Whatever you want to do is what you want to do. And if you want to run CSX in 1970, that's fine. You know what I mean? But a lot of us kind of lean back to that. Hey, I want this to look kind of realistic, or hey, I want this to kind of be this era because I'm enjoying this era. You know what I mean? And so,
I know that like the backstory to your layout is something that you're really into, and it's important for your enjoyment of the hobby that you have a legitimate, or I guess you could say plausible, backstory. And
right.
I can remember one of the earlier trades we did, Pat. I think you wanted some GP40s.
Yeah,
painted in a modified RJ Corman paint job, which became one of the paint jobs you used for the West Penn, and you traded me some Beth Gone gondolas, which would not have, would have been not running in your time frame. So
that's a great example. Yeah. But at the time, I was purchasing what looked great. You know what I mean?
yeah, they are great looking.
Yeah.
They are looking old cars. But yeah, that's when you said about making trades. That's what I'm thinking.
So you guys have really good advice there. Like, hey, think this out before you purchase. Not saying you can't purchase, or but you might want to just try to get. Now, Brad and I are also at the opinion, though. We are get those trains moving. Don't leave them in boxes. Don't leave your track stacked. Put something out and run. Because that's the enjoyment of the hobby, at least for me. So,
and the other thing that you have to consider too, a lot of people will have their layout, and then they also have collections.
That's right.
Just like Pensy Steam, unless I have a museum on my layout, would not Steam would have been gone for decades in the time frame of my layout, which is basically like 2015 to early 2020s in that time frame. So the only Steam that's running is the stuff that the heritage, the restored stuff that they're running on excursion trains. But I like Pennsylvania steam engines, so I collect a lot of Pennsylvania brass and other steam engines, and Freddie has been very helpful with that, helping me, like I said, spend my money. So,
okay, I'm going to go to the next question since we were talking about rolling stock and locomotives. Freddie, is it better to buy a few high quality locomotives, or better to buy just some more budget friendly models to get your inventory built up? What do you think?
I think it depends on where you are in your model railroad adventure. If you're starting out, I think whether it's going to be the train around your Christmas tree, whether it's the first chapter of your model railroading adventure, go with quality, but don't pay full price for it. But on the other side is if you are in the game for a while, and I could take myself as an example where there's a side of the hobby which is DC locomotives, which are fairly cheaper. They run well. You can only run maybe one or two trains at a time. But then the other side of the spectrum is DCC or DCC Sound. And so growing up in the 90s, I mean, DC was king. And I could say most of my collection is DC. But what I've done since I've been, older is, have a box DCC Sound locomotives that I use when I go to the club. I highly encourage people to join clubs so that, they can ask people questions there. They can learn about the hobby. But I usually intend to, bring some of those more expensive locomotives to the club so I can share the line with people. I can do more things. I can run sound. I can run the longer trains. So, given the choice between the two, I would say it's good to have a few really nice engines. Those are your go-tos. Those are going to be the backbone of your fleet. You might as well start, right on the right track. No pun intended.
I would agree with that too. It's nice to have something that you just set on the track and it's going to run.
Right.
There are some that are better than others. We are really in a golden age in the hobby, though. I think the stuff that we have today, generally speaking, not even generally speaking, it just flat out. I got started way back in the 70s, and N scale in the 70s. The joke is, and it's a funny joke because it's true. A lot of the engines that you could get your hands on back then, they would run real well if you put them in reverse and if you put them going backwards at 300 miles an hour. Anything else you try to do with them, but I agree with Freddie though. If you could get something that is rock solid, reliable, and looks good, I'm willing to pay a little bit more for something like that than to go with a bargain basement. The other great point I thought you made, Freddie, is about the ability to get connected with a club and other people who can help you with this. And Pat, I'll use you as an example. We were both fortunate enough early on in the Iron City, which was really early on from us in switching from being basically lone wolf modelers back in the 2018 2019 timeframe to all of a sudden meeting up with all these awesome people that we've gotten to know in Iron City. But you were developing the concept for your prototype freelance West Pet, and it was based in Pittsburgh. So you were able to tap basically the person who I would consider to be the encyclopedia of knowledge about Pittsburgh area railroads, our Iron City historian, Richard Shirey. And I know he's given you all kind of advice on, obviously he can't give you advice on the West Penn because it didn't really exist, but all kind of advice on how to make the West Penn look and feel like a 1970s, 1980s Pittsburgh railroad. I don't know that you could have run into anybody better than him to try to get that figured out.
No, and he helped to make sure I understand. Like, okay, when you do a freelance, what are you blending? How, would that could you blend these box cars in? Can you can you do this? And yeah, a lot of the answers are no, I don't think so, or yeah, you could have done that. And it would look perfectly right in with a freelance. And Clem, I'll throw another question at you. And I know I know you and Freddie do this a lot, but for someone that's listening for the first, hasn't done much, have you had success buying used equipment?
I absolutely have. So, at least on this end, Freddie has been a huge help finding a lot of odds and ends for me. I have odds and ends local sources for finding things. I've found things through like eBay, other places. And at least as far as odds and ends are concerned, like locomotives, I've had a couple of Kato locomotives over the years, like two or three maybe, where I got something that had like a funky motor or something was wrong with it. But Kato keeps a fairly decent parts selection for a lot of their locomotives. They don't have everything in stock, but they do keep a fairly decent selection. And if worst possible case, if it's an oddball piece, like maybe one of their older Mikados, sometimes you can find a good deal like on a parts locomotive for cheap, or like somebody maybe is selling one locally, whether it's like Facebook Marketplace or something like that. So personally, I've always had really good luck finding what I need. And I'm kind of in the same position that Brad is, except when it comes to more like Southern Pacific or Santa Fe steam. The stuff that I'm looking to collect has been out of production since the mid 90s. And so I don't have any choice but to go find something that's on the secondhand market. And generally, I've had pretty good luck with that. And the few things that I haven't, I've been able to find parts for.
Just curious, Clem, have you lived in New Mexico most of your life, or were you in other areas too?
So I am originally from Colorado,
Okay.
born and raised. I took an 11-year detour through Texas, and then that's actually what got me out to New Mexico. Indirectly, I'm from New Mexico. My great grandparents lived up in northeastern New Mexico, up in Union County, which is actually where I traced my interest in railroading back to, was seeing BN Burlington Northern coal trains go through the tiny village of Folsom, New Mexico, when I was just a few years old. And I remember seeing like engineers waving, and there, this was in the caboose era. I was always looking for the caboose. And there's, the conductor, the rear brakeman would always be out there waving. And but that's where, so I'm indirectly from this part of the world in a very roundabout way.
Yeah, I figured you must have been from, most of your life out there, judging by and this isn't always the case, but oftentimes the place where you grew up kind of forms decades later the basis for a lot of what you do in the hobby. So when you mentioned those roads that you like to collect, I figured there must be some pretty strong connection to the West. So that's pretty cool.
Which
Did you ever meet Walter White out there in New Mexico?
Actually, what was funny is when I worked at the time. I worked for the New Mexico Rail Runner Express, the commuter agency,
Yeah.
as a locomotive engineer when they were filming a lot of that. And it was interesting to see and hear all that. I was in a one of the shoots for the USA series in plain sight, where they had us dress entirely different, because the commuter agency wanted everybody to wear uniforms.
Oh yeah.
And I think I've employed elsewhere these days as a locomotive engineer, and so I very thankfully don't have to wear a uniform anymore.
That's
However, one of the things they're talking about, what draws you into the hobby, growing up in Colorado Springs as a kid along the joint line, the one place my era has slipped is once scale trains came out with the tunnel motors, and then soon to be the release of the Jeep 40s in Rio Grande colors. My wallet took a hit. It was bad.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah, it is interesting sometimes just to talk about how you got from where you are to where you're at today in the hobby, and all those backstories just fascinate me. Sorry, Pat, to take things a little bit in a different direction there.
No, what did Bugs Bunny say? Take a left at Albuquerque. That's what we just did. Hey, so my next
I stayed put. I stayed put. So.
so my next question, I think this is a really good one because I don't know the answer. So I think this is a good one. I'll go with Freddie first, and Clem and Brad. You guys can all jump in. Is there a blue book or something where I'm looking at a live auction, or I'm looking on eBay, or I'm going to one of the sites you guys recommend to look for secondary? How do I know that's a reasonable price? Or how do I know that I maybe can bid up a little bit here because the price on this is pretty shallow, and I can move up? Or hey, I'm overbidding. There's no need for that. How does one know what prices on the secondary level is? Because it is a big market. Freddie, any clues on that one?
Yeah. So my recommendation is three sources. You have Trove Star, Spook Show, and eBay. Trove Star is run by members of the N-Scale Enthusiasts, and also the N-Scale Enthusiast puts out once a year a manual or this giant book that writes down, collects prices paid, highest price paid for specific N-Scale pieces. They post it every year. They always have auctions going out throughout the year. But Trove Star is a website that you can look up specific N scale, and basically it'll tell you what it sold for MSRP, whether somebody's selling it, and they usually post what was it last sold. Spook Show, if you look up Spook Show N scale, it's a great website. that a guy puts together. Basically, anything North American prototype, the guy reviews it. Whether it's plastic, whether it's a one-off kit, whether it's a brass engine, he'll review it. And he goes very in depth on his reviews. He'll talk about the challenges that he saw whenever he tested it, the experience that he had running it, and the strategy of taking the shell off the top. Usually he'll rank the locomotives on the bottom of the page, A through D. And I usually have that as my go-to place on if I'm looking at an engine that I'm not sure of, especially in the brass world where a lot of these engines are hit or miss. I go to his website. I look at his write-up about the specific locomotive. The last place I recommend is eBay. And using your example, Pat, if you're on eBay and you're seeing something that's on an auction, it's going down, and you have the time to do it, look up the piece. You know, we can throw out there a Kato P42. You know, you look up Kato P40, and what people don't usually do is if you're in the filter section, you can basically scroll down and see sold and completed transactions. And if you click those, eBay spits out this listing of all those locomotives that fit your description that have recently sold. So if there's something that I'm not really sure what the price is, eBay's the pretty go-to source of what was just paid for that. And usually, you know, P42s are pretty, you know, known to be on eBay all the time. So if something sold for 70, one sold for 80, one sold for 90, you can kind of come up with a range where on high, you know, this engine sold for $90, but maybe it sold for $90 because somebody added DCC and sound. Somebody maybe added additional details. Maybe it was a custom run, whatever. But I use those three sources to evaluate kind of what the price is. And then you also have to think about condition, where if it's brand new, you know, it's definitely an easier way to track down what the pricing could be. But if it's used, I kind of, you know, take a little exception to that. You know, if somebody says it was a test run, then I don't take a big issue. If somebody says I've run this thing every day for the last 10 years, I mean, I might discount the price a little bit.
Yeah, I used, now I've never looked at TroveStar, but the other two I've used too, Pat. But the other place I know, Freddie, that you hang out too, if you're, and this is kind of a niche market now, the N scale brass, but there's BrassTrains.com where you can get an idea of of the price of N scale steam locomotives. If you haven't ever been there though and aren't familiar with the brass market, just get ready for a little bit of sticker shock, because as you know, as Clem mentioned, this stuff hasn't been in production for 3 decades now, so
Right.
it's becoming more and more rare. And but there's stuff on there, like I'm looking at a PRR S1, which was basically like a one-off locomotive that the Pennsy did I believe they did it for the World's Fair one year. They were rare when they came out, and they're even more rare now. But just to give you an idea, that thing sells for, they have the price at $2,195. So I kind of use them because I know they deal in a lot of different brass and all scales. So they have a good idea of, you know, what fair market price is. And, you know, if I can find something on eBay or other places that for whatever reason is going for significantly less than what theirs is, and then I have a pretty good idea that that's a good deal, because I feel they're very fair with their pricing. I mean, they have to make money off everything they sell, obviously, but yeah, there's lots of sources, and Freddie mentioned some of the big ones too. So
Right.
it's always good to have an idea of what it's worth, and you also have to consider what it's worth to you. You know, it's like,
That's right.
you know, if it's a Pennsylvania steamer, I'm probably willing to pay a little bit more for it than I would be for one of the roads that I'm not as passionate about as I am with the PRR. So
Right.
Lots of different factors to consider there, but those are all really good places to get a really good idea of what fair market value is.
Brad, with brass trains, the website is pretty good at tracking those. What people don't really recognize is they actually have like 2 or 3 tabs at the top where they have brass trains, the website. Then they have brass trains, the historical price tracker. The only caveat, and I tell people about brass trains, is take their prices with a grain of salt because the pricing that they use is internal. I don't think they usually track the actual area because there are times where they will say something's worth a certain amount of money, but in reality the market's telling you something else. Especially with the wide range of brass engines that we see on eBay that come up a lot, like Pennsylvania Key M1s. Take those with a grain of salt. eBay's kind of, I feel like, the better version just because those are the right up to date. Brass Trains doesn't disclose when the price was sold. So
and you're right.
That you're looking at,
and Freddie, one of the things,
tell you when that was sold.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things too that you'll see with BrassTrains.com is that they're going to go through and cherry pick and sell more of the cream of the crop, something that is going to be pretty much brand new as far as condition. And so, of course, that's going to fetch a little bit higher price. Which and if you're more of a collector or you're wanting that ultra rare piece, like one of the oddball pieces that has wandered home for me was an AC9, and that was the one oddball in the cab in the SP cab forwards where it was actually the cab was on the correct end, and those are actually unique to New Mexico. And so with that in mind, I had set out to watch for one and had found one a while back. And so knowing that when I bought that from BrassTrains.com, yes, I was going to pay a little bit more for it. But then I also knew that it wasn't going to be the scratches and scuffs and all the stuff that you might deal with when you buy it from somebody off of eBay.
Yeah. And that, to Freddie's point too, you do have to, I mean, you can put whatever price you want on any piece that you're trying to sell. It doesn't really mean much unless it sells. That's the advantage of doing what he said with eBay, because you could see you're not just looking at the price that somebody hopes to get for it. You can actually go in and see what somebody actually paid for it. So that is a great point.
Okay, Clem, I'm going to pass a question over to you. I think all 4 of us know what the answer is on this one already, but I do have it's a 2-parter. So is DCC worth the investment with someone on a budget? And then second, I'm going to follow up on this is what is an affordable DCC system that you're impressed with? I tell you, a guy like me that has a huge DC fleet, I jumped in with the DCCEX. I'm able to run DC and DCCX on different tracks at the same time, and I just think it's here. You got to purchase it. It's just something about another part of that phase of the hobby you need to get into. But Clem, what's your ideas on DCC, and what do you think are some affordable DCC systems?
So I am absolutely 100% in favor of DCC. To me, even DCC without sound, even that you can add a certain level of prototypical realism. And where I'm going with that is say you put together 3 locomotives, and if you have your DCC set up correctly and how that locomotive responds, well, then your headlights or your ditch lights on that middle locomotive aren't just on in consist. And so to me, the realism, even without the sound, having the little bit of extra control and then being able to do things a little bit differently. I am ultra picky about speed matching. And anybody that's seen any of my comments on the Iron City page has always seen that's usually something that you'll hear pretty regular from me is speed match. And DCC allows that to where you can take, say, a scale trains locomotive, put it together with a Kato locomotive, put it together with an Atlas locomotive, and they all run in harmony. You don't have them pushing and pulling and fighting each other. And like with DC, where you'd have to put the fastest one in front, ideally, and that may not be the one you want in front, but that's what you wind up doing. The lighting effects that you can do with DCC, even without sound, like back to doing just basic installs and being able to have that extra, little bit of extra control, a little bit of something extra is fun. I personally learned how to do all of my DCC installs because I didn't want to pay for other people to do those installs. And when I first started getting interested in especially doing like sound installs, you were seeing a reasonable sound install was, $150, $200 at the time. And I'm looking at that going, I don't want to spend that money on top of buying a decoder and then sending a locomotive off and then waiting for it to come back. And so I figured if this person learned how to do it, well, so can I. And that's always been one of my things is if somebody else can learn how to do it, well, so can I. And if I learn how to do it, then I want to try and pass that along, what I'm learning to other people. And that continuous wanting to evolve and do more and do bigger and better, I think probably one of my neatest DCC, most frustrating but neatest DCC installs was on the Kato Big Boy. It was frustrating getting it sorted out, but once it was sorted out, I actually have two separate decoders, one for each motor. And so what that does, a couple of different things, is it sets up two different chuff rates and all that stuff instead of just having a mechanical, just two chuff sets built into the decoder. But the other thing that this allows for with having two motors on that locomotive is I can actually slip the front driver's set out on that front driver's set, just like the prototype. I now have all of the lighting outputs that I need to have all of the service lighting all the way around the locomotive, the firebox flicker, because they borrowed 3985's tender. It has like even the red marker light on the tender that works. I have enough with having both decoders plus the ability to have that extra little goofy prototype function of being able to slip the driver's set just like the prototype did. And what fascinated me, where that idea came from, was 2-3 years ago when Big Boy was returning back from somewhere they'd encountered a stalled freight train. I coupled up to the back of it and they started helping push him up this hill. Well, when that front driver's set got to a road crossing, it slipped out. And that's what kind of sparked that idea. Like, hey, this thing has two motors. I wonder if turned into reality.
That's really
so,
cool.
Hands down, I'm 1,000%. I know I said 100% earlier. I'm 1,000% for DCC.
You jumped up.
You just talked yourself into increasing it as you.
I did. Yeah. So, and part of that in the theme of what we're talking about is as you learn how to do these installs, you can help keep your price down because LEDs are relatively inexpensive. If you need to buy resistors, you can buy a roll of them off eBay for next to nothing. You can buy decoders relatively reasonable. Worst possible case, at one point in time, ESU did not have any kind of warranty, so you were screwed if you fried one of their decoders. But even now, ESU has a return policy on decoders, and so basically, as long as you're not stabbing it with a soldering iron or like out in your driveway trying to run it over with your car or do something malicious to it, and you burn it up, okay, send it back. And the worst thing you're out is the time and a little bit of frustration of, okay, hey, I goofed this up. But that downtime while you're waiting for the decoder to get back to you is time to think and time to process and go, oh, hey, I know what I did wrong. And so
Clem, what are you using? Like what to you, what's the best dollar to donuts for you personally? What are you going to recommend? for our listeners to purchase?
I'm real big into ESU right now. And just for yes, they're a little bit more expensive, but I'm also of the mindset that when it comes to decoders, that you're gonna get what you pay for. I'm not gonna knock any brands on here, but there are some that are better than others. If you're not necessarily wanting to mess with sound, TCS, it makes a really good non-sound drop-in decoder. For the sound stuff, ESU though, hands down. And the fun thing that goes with this is you can actually, there's starting to be a lot of places that are popping up with like speakers that you can put in that fit right in. You don't even have to worry about milling frames anymore. And that's always been kind of like my big driving point when I do any kind of sound install. Is the goal is, can I do this without milling anything?
Mhm.
And that's like the overarching question. And that's actually kind of how my N-Scale Shenanigans page got its start, was because, hey, I don't want to mill anything. How do we go about this? And so especially as 3D printing has evolved, that's kind of where that's gone. But hands down, ESU, if you want sound, ESU also makes a decent, their low pilot line that has the same footprint and shape of their sound decoders that match for a drop in for any of the commercially available stuff, or for a few things. TCS actually makes a really good non sound option for a lot of like Kato engines and whatnot. As far as DCC systems, I can tell you I don't have any experience right now with DCCEX, and I always, whenever you share anything, I always actually kind of sit up and pay attention to that. And because the thing that's always fascinated me with that system is the price point. You are able to get that set up significantly quicker and easier, and at a much better price, at a price point than what any other system is that's commercially available. So you have my attention on that one, but I don't have any experience to tell you anything about it. So I'm going to defer to you on that one. I'm a big fan of NCE, and hands down, we use that at the New Mexico Rail Runners Club. I have the same thing here at the house as I've been collecting stuff for getting a layout going. It's fairly simple. It works. The throttles are a little bit clunkier than, say, a Digitrax throttle. However, like anything else, as you get used to it and you have the muscle memory in your hand, your finger knows where to go on the throttle to get it to do all the odds and ends. We've set up the club layout also for proto throttles. And so then that's kind of an additional layer. It's not necessarily a DCC system in and of itself, but that it kind of changes up the control, how you control the locomotives and whatnot. But NC hands down is my favorite DCC system right now.
Clem, thanks for that great answer. I've got time for one more question tonight, and I'm going to make sure everybody gets a round robin on this one. It's, you got to buy one tool right now in your layout to help keep things going. What tool do you have to have? I'll go with Freddie first. Freddie, what do you have to have by your side all the time that you think has been really helping you with model railroading?
I think my go-to tool would be an NCE power cap. They are pretty handy. Not to like jump into that DCC conversation, but usually when I pack my bag for Altoona, I have this tactical bag where it has an old Tomix DCE transformer. It's got an NCE power cab and a bunch of Kato Unitrack straights. So anytime I go somewhere for a show or if I buy a new engine, that backpack with the NCE power cab is my go-to.
I just want to get a quick disclaimer in here. I did not put either one of these.
I knew this was coming.
I did not tell them they had to say that. They said that completely on their own.
Yes, that's right.
I will not speak ill of any other DCC system.
Clem, what is your go-to tool right now that if you had to tell someone, hey man, you got to have one of these to help you with the hobby? What's your go-to right now?
So back the other way, because of the time and energy that I have invested with ESU stuff, my loc programmer, hands down, has been my biggest lifesaver. So just like Freddie, I keeps his NC with a couple sections of Kato straight track. I have the same setup and setup for with my loc programmer, and I can sit here. In fact, I've been sitting here ahead of this call, and we'll go back to adjusting lights and sounds on a couple things here that we'll be running tomorrow at the clubhouse. It's a little pricey for start, but if you're going to invest in sound, like, that's something you have to have right now. If you choose ESU.
Yeah, that loc programmer just opens up a whole new hobby within the hobby. It's so awesome to be able to download and install custom sound file. Like, you can go to ESU's website and say, "Oh, I'm putting a decoder in a, I don't know, GP40." And you can go find that exact sound that somebody recorded and is there in the library. You download it, and you don't just have a generic diesel sound. You have a GP40 prime mover sound. So yeah.
Oh, and Brad, the fun with that, like, if say you have like a 3 or 4 tunnel motors that you're running, because they're all the same locomotive, you can vary the playback speed so that they all sound just a little bit different, and you don't get that weird, goofy harmonic where the sound begins to reinforce itself, and then it has that weird tinny echo. So you can go in and start making a lot of little adjustments on it. And worst possible cases, if you goof up, you okay, fine, you rewrite the file and start over. I mean, that is the absolute worst possible case, and it's an investment in time at that point.
And the other nice thing about it too is once you get the sound file about where you want it, you can save it, and then if you have another identical locomotive, you just transfer and then if you're running them in a consist, you can even transfer. You were mentioned speed matching before. You can transfer the same speed curve from the original locomotive, and a lot of times, if they're the same brand of locomotive, that gets you at least in the ballpark. It doesn't always match up perfectly because there are little minute variations even within the same exact model, but it just opens up so much that you could. I avoided ESU decoders for years just because I didn't have a loc programmer, and I found it just to be, you have to look through they do provide a very good bunch of documentation for their decoders, but it's like 75, 80 pages long. The loc programmer basically has, it gives you you don't have to look up CVs because it'll actually tell you what each CV controls. And yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. It's if you're going with sound, I would, like Clem, recommend ESU loc sound. And as recently as about a year and a half ago, I wouldn't have said that, but since I got my loc programmer, I've changed my mind. It's a great piece to have. And as far as a tool that I would need to have, for me, it's just whether you're in sound, DC, DCC, to me, a digital voltmeter is invaluable to have. That's how I basically discovered that I was getting this ringing on some of my long bus runs, because I noticed voltage spikes. And recently, I've also got one of those handheld oscilloscopes, but you got to have some way to measure the output to your track if you're diagnosing or if you're making changes or whatever. But yeah, that's the loc programmer is a great tool.
Hey guys, what a great night, man! That hour went quick. I learned a bunch of stuff tonight, especially about the pricing and how to go on eBay and look into those and pricing and try to get that history. That's huge, especially if you're trying to do some research, if you're going on to an online auction, which a lot of them are out there right now, and you're trying to make sure you don't overprice yourself, and what the quantity of that is, how many are out there. Those are all great answers tonight. So, Brad, I want to say thanks to these guys, and we really appreciate them being on. I'll throw it over to you for the final word, and we'll be back with our comments after you say your last speech here.
All right. Thanks, Pat. Yeah, I will echo what Pat said. Freddie and Clem, thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time here today. There were just so many outstanding points and great information that you guys were able to share your comments and your expertise with our listeners. So thank you for joining us. And thank you to everybody who listened. And like Pat said, he and I will be right back to wrap things up.
Welcome back, Iron City. Once again, Brad, episode 12, right on the money. No pun intended. That was a good show. I learned a lot from that one.
I just saw what you did there. That was clever.
So hopefully our listeners are going to, shop smartly, save some money, or spend more money, right? And find these different websites and links and pages that our guy shared with us tonight. I couldn't ask for two better guests this evening.
I agree. I enjoyed every minute of that, and just want to say a big thanks to Freddie and Clem for, providing us with their insights. So that hour, it was just about an hour that went by in the blink of an eye. So we're going to keep the ending fairly short, but we just wanted to wrap things up. And I know you have a couple important announcements that you wanted to share. So I will shut up and let you get right to that.
Okay, Brad. Hey, Brad, for the last few years during the summer, we know people have slowed down a little bit and they're out and about, but we like to try to do a couple of theme weekends virtually during the summer. And it can be your models, it can be, the prototypes, the one versus one there, anything you want to do with that theme. So our first theme weekend is going to be June 20th and 21st. And that's going to be a caboose weekend. So make sure you put all your pictures out there for your cabooses or caboose, I guess.
Yeah.
And then July 4th, July 5th, Brad, 250 USA. I know a lot of guys are modeling these new models with all the prototypes with the paint jobs and everything. They look great. If you got any patriotic red, white, and blue, historical, whatever you want to do to celebrate 250 USA weekend, July 4th and 5th. And then the other one that the listeners and our members voted on was passenger trains. We're going to do 8, 9 August passenger trains, all kinds of different passenger trains. I know I'm going to have the office special for the West Penn up there running, some Amtrak going. And I know you've got a bunch of stuff too. So can't wait for those weekends, those 3 weekends.
Those are always fun things. And did we do one last summer, or has it been a couple?
We did one last summer. I think we did west of the Mississippi. We did. That's before we got big out west.
Yeah.
But we've done CSX weekends. We've done NS weekends. We've done short line. We've done, I think it was Dirty Diesel weekend was one of the first ones we did.
Remember that now.
We had a Steam weekend, which is every day now on the Facebook page. Every day Steam Day.
That's my fault. Thanks to everybody for hogging the page, but I'm just
if you remember my post, it said I like to apologize for all these Steam posts. No way. Continue to post. I love them. I can't get enough. Especially the dual going down the rails at the same time. That was just phenomenal, Brad. You couldn't ask for better.
I agree.
Once in a lifetime, maybe you might not see that again. You know what I mean? So it's
not.
It's great.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, Brad. Let me tell everybody where they can find us. Hey, they got us. They can catch us on the Iron City page on Facebook, Iron City InScale. You can also listen to us on Apple, YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Player FM, Listen Notes, Podchaser, and Boomplay. And let me just add something on YouTube. We're throwing out those videos out there for you guys to watch. We try to grab as much as we can from our Facebook page, push it on YouTube. So it's one stop. You can get your podcast, you can get your videos and everything right there on YouTube. We're really starting to build that audience, and we appreciate you guys on that. Also, everyone you heard tonight is on our page. They're members. So if you have direct questions you need to send to them, or if you have some questions about some pricing or Clem's big into the DCC putting the decoders in and everything. You can send them a personal message or post right on our page, asking what you need to ask. Someone asked the other day about a question. It's about a silly question. There's no silly question on the Iron City page. We're always learning. Even if you know the answer, someone might even come up with something different. So we're always learning on the Iron City page. And with that, Brad, I'll pass over to you for your final words.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to Freddie and Clem for sharing their knowledge so willingly. They both have they're skilled in the area of finding things. They're kind of like the guy for Shawshank Redemption. I'm the guy who finds things. And of course, as you mentioned, Clem with his expert DCC installs, I'm going to be talking to him a lot about some brass locomotives that I want to put decoders in, which can be a little bit tricky. But thank you so much to those guys. And we appreciate it so much. And I hope our listeners enjoyed hearing those guys as much as we enjoyed talking to them. And also a huge, once again, thank you to all the listeners. We appreciate so much that you guys download us and listen to us. I know I say it all the time, but it really means a lot, and it's what keeps us going. And then one final thing that I have to say with the 250th anniversary of our country coming up. I know there are people from other countries, but Pat, we really are kind of spoiled here in a lot of ways in the United States, and this last couple weeks have just driven that home to me. Like, where else do you get to see two humongous mainline steam locomotives chugging up and down the Reading and Northern here in eastern Pennsylvania? So, anybody who's in the area, let take advantage of this opportunity, because as Pat just mentioned, it may not come around again like this. We're both old enough to remember the America's bicentennial, the 200th birthday. We got the 250th birthday coming up, and we all have a lot to be grateful for the things that are going on, and as rail fans, for the things that these railroads are doing for us. And I just hope we don't ever take that for granted, and show them some gratitude for being willing to do this at no small expense. So that's just the little thought that I have here as we approach just a couple weeks here, a few weeks, we'll be celebrating the 250th year of the United States of America. So having said that, thank you to everybody for joining us, and thank you once again for listening to episode 12 of season 2, The Price is Right, of the Iron City Roundhouse Report. So long. All right, rail fans, that's all the steam we've got for this edition of the Iron City Roundhouse Report. Until next time, keep those gauges green, your couplers connected, and may your layouts always run smoothly. Happy railroading.